Today we're joined by Adrian Bell, an award-winning production sound mixer whose work spans major film productions, such as About Time, Goodbye Christopher Robin, Inferno, Judy and Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. Originally from Skegness, Adrian has built a career at the heart of production, capturing performances in real time and helping shape the emotional impact of scenes from the very first take. His work has been recognised at the highest level within the industry, reflecting both technical excellence and creative sensitivity in some of the most demanding filming environments. Today we're going to explore what it's really like to capture sound on set, from intimate dialogue to large-scale musical performance. Please welcome Adrian Bell to Location Links Loud. Adrian, welcome to Location Links Loud. For anyone that might not know, what does a sound recordist actually do during filming?
It looks like they don't do a lot quite often on drama shoots. I mean, obviously there's some action films that where you'd be a much more mobile, running around with a bag on your shoulder. But really the essence is for drama work, capturing good dialogue, no noisy backgrounds. One of the big problems on bigger sets is crew noise generally. So a lot of people are building up to the actual filming work. And then once filming starts on a particular sequence or a scene, a lot of the crew don't have much to do. And that's when my work really starts, and that's when I have to concentrate on what we're getting. And that is really getting as good a recording and clean dialogue and no background noise as much as we can.
And what first drew you to working in sound, specifically on set in the middle of the action?
I was DJing at the time. I left school at 16. My dad brought me an advert from the Daily Mail, which was BBC training in London at Ealing Film Studios. I didn't have a clue what it was. I knew it was sound. It sounded great because it was the BBC, and the BBC had great training at the time. I was very lucky to get in, and it was very competitive, and I started training with the BBC. I didn't know it was television or film, but as the time went on, then I started getting introduced to more bright lights and screens.
And you've worked across a range of major film productions. When you look back, which projects feel like the turning point in your career? Because if you've gone through that training in Ealing, talk me through how you ended up on some of the biggest films.
I was very lucky to work on documentaries, and it was at the emergence of fly on the wall TV, I suppose you used to call it, following people during their real lives. Very interesting work, amazing traveling. I did that work for about 15 years. And then started getting interested in a bit of drama, doing short films, doing freebies, and got very lucky. I think a turning point really was Dancing on the Edge, which was a BBC Two period drama. It was a really tough gig. It was recording live music. They didn't really have a budget to do it properly. There was a lot of music playback. There were some times when we'd be recording live music on trains, like on the Bluebell Railway. It was a very stressful job. There were long days, lots of travelling, and
you're making it sound so glamorous.
I was meditating at lunchtime to get through the job.
Wow.
But we won a BAFTA for it, and I mean, the awards things are very competitive. There's always so many good shows. I think once you get a nomination, I think that's kind of accolades enough really as they go. But I think that show for me was quite a big turning point, and my work in drama then started to take quite a serious turn.
What followed that production then?
So then my first real feature, properly budgeted feature, was About Time.
Directed by one of my favourite films, to be honest.
Directed by Richard Curtis, who was gorgeous to work with, and it was a lovely story. and amazing actors to work with. And that was really the point when I thought, this is getting a bit serious. I need to kind of equip myself for this mentally, physically, equipment-wise, to move into that area a bit more reliably.
There was one particular scene in About Time that was very sound dependent. Do you know what I'm thinking of? Because I love that film.
Was it a New Year's Eve party, or was it
No.
that when they're walking on the beach at the end?
No, when they go to the restaurant and you can't see anything. So all you've got is the sound.
Yeah. And we did that for real in
Did
a blackened studio.
Did you?
We blacked it all out, and we got the actors in, and we recorded that scene and we turned all the studio lights off, and we recorded it in the dark.
I've actually went to that restaurant. I can't remember what Don the Noir.
That's the one.
Don the Noir.
Yeah.
And it's the strangest experience.
Yeah.
It's all about senses and everything that you don't know. I mean, I'm definitely going on a tangent, but
I've never experienced that. I've never been there, so
And I think we had shark, and everything tasted like chicken. So there we go. It probably was chicken. Yeah, exactly. Oh, you're having shark, are we?
So there was one little scene in that at the end when he's walking along the beach with his dad for the last time because his father's going to pass away. And Richard had asked me on the tech recce, what's the sea going to be like? Are we going to be able to record dialogue on this? And I said, well, it's a bit like recording under a flight path. It could be great, it could be flat calm, or it could be quite wavy and noisy, and you might have to replace it. So we kind of went with it. It was a lovely beach. We weren't going to be able to film anywhere else because that was all part of the location work. And on the day, it was a little bit wavy, and Richard put his headphones on and he said, I can hear waves. and I said, well, we did have this discussion, but it was still a beautiful scene and a tearjerker, like you say.
Oh, loved it. Lovely film, and I think is a classic now. Yeah. You're talking about awards, but how do you think it really changes how people perceive you within the industry, or is it more of a personal milestone for you?
I think it's a bit of both, because I think awards are, I mean, certainly behind the camera awards are awarded by your peers, so actually I do feel it's an accolade because it's been voted for by people who know what your job is and what those considerations of getting that film done in the way that it was done, or the location, or equipment that you had to use. But also I think people think you're probably more expensive than when you do win an award. So it's a double-edged sword, really. It's a lovely evening out,
isn't it? Yeah. So your work often happens in the moment, so often with no second chance. So what's going through your mind when the camera rolls?
Yeah, I mean, it's different on every production, really. On a kind of action film, it would be, you'd just be trying to, well, I'm going back to my documentary roots then. I'm trying to keep ahead of what might happen next, who's going to speak next, where the camera's going to go. Nowadays, we're using multiple cameras. And so I am trying to still concentrate on the actual sound that we're getting. I quite often work with one headphone that's slightly off, so I can hear what's going on around me. I can hear what the director's looking for, or I can, just be spatially aware of things that are happening around me from a safety point of view, as well as a creative point of view. And so it's really just trying to remember to listen to what your headphones are hearing as well, rather than hearing what's going on around you. So it's being aware of things happening, but also concentrating on the actual sound that you're getting in your headphones.
So just out of curiosity, this is off-piste. On those big, say you're shooting a car chase or something in Mission Impossible, I'm so used to it being one person in those small kind of moments. How do you manage a team on the bigger productions? Do you increase daily, or do you have a team with you all the time, or how does that work
on an action film?
Well, any film, just any.
Well, I mean, on 6 Underground, which was directed by Michael Bay, there was a lot of shows, action-wise now, aren't scripted fully. you're expected to just follow the moment. Some shows don't have scripts or sides. You turn up and you shoot what has been discussed at the breakfast table that morning, and the actors may know what's happening. The directors and producers will probably have a direction for the film, but want to keep it more fluid. So you are kind of going back to kind of documentary style, really. The team kind of stays the same because you still need that level of support from a sound crew. So you're still changing radio mics on people. Sometimes you're breaking equipment and it's being replaced very quickly. A film crew is not going to wait around for you to repair your kit. You have zero downtime to replace items of equipment that have been misused or damaged by yourself. And that juggernaut of the film crew and filming carries on for those 10, 12 hours a day, and you've just got to keep up.
So you work closely with actors, and even if they may not always realise the level of the detail involved, how important is it to you with the relationship with the actors?
Well, my team are obviously working more closely with the actors on a day-to-day basis. So we're putting mics on them. We're working with costume and hair and makeup to have a relationship with them, which is really important to make sure that they're happy with where we place mics on them, that the actor's happy and comfortable. It's not going to affect their performance. We try and strive for not just technical sound, but sound that can enhance a performance with an actor. And everybody works differently. Every actor has a very different attitude to trusting us. We try to ensure them that their off-camera sound is not going to be put into a post-production chain. So it's only when the record button is pressed that that sound then will be part of the movie and part of anything that's as that sound goes into the post-production chain. And I have that responsibility on my head to make sure that doesn't happen, and that the actors feel comfortable, because obviously nearly every actor is radio mic these days as well, with sometimes multiple radio mics, but certainly multiple actors. And so there's an awareness now with actors that they are being recorded sometimes all day long, and we don't want any of the sound that is not part of the film to be processed anyway.
I suppose every project brings different challenges. What are some of the toughest environments you've had to record in?
I think Everest was probably the toughest challenge. A lot of Everest was filmed in the Dolomites in Italy. It was super cold. Equipment was really had to be really thought about to keep it going in the cold, with heat bags, and overnight the equipment was being stored in a marquee on top of the mountain. And I think on one of the first days on the mountain, we had Jake Gyllenhaal, and his mic had been pulled out. We couldn't get a boom in anywhere because we had a wide shot and we had a close-up, and he had dialogue, so we had to get that mic working again. And Jake was wearing a period, I think it was 1970s snowsuit. So I went down to Jake. It's the first time I'd met him, and had to kind of undo his snowsuit and go round his body to find the mic pack in his back, which was really sweaty because it wasn't a new kind of modern snowsuit. And that was our introduction to one of the lead actors. So that's probably one of the more intimate moments you'd have working with actors. They're all different. They all like working in different ways, and it's up to us to learn those relationships and make sure that the relationship works.
You talked about the keeping the equipment in a marquee on the side of a mountain. Like, temperature affects equipment, surely. How are you able to maintain things? It was heated.
It was heated.
So did you come across any problems with the change of temperature? Because obviously you'd be cold in the day. And
condensations. So we would be putting layers on in the hotel at about 4:45 in the morning, getting a chairlift up at about 6, and then when the chairlift gets to the top, There's then a snow catmobile to take 12 crew up at 45 degrees to carry on the journey. And that's why the equipment had to stay up at the top. So that was heated. There were days when it had snowed inside the marquee that it drifted in through the door. So that was a bit of a slower start, and trying to
get in the marquee.
Trying to get in the marquee and blowing snow off and making sure the equipment was usable.
Can you talk us through a moment where things didn't go to plan and you had to problem solve quickly?
No, everything goes to plan.
Everything was perfectly.
Yeah. Well, again, it's like it's pre-planning. It's kind of you have to prepare your kit or multiple kits to make sure that if something does go wrong, you need to have a quick fix. The crew are not going to stand around waiting for you. The actors are certainly not going to stand around waiting for you. So from the point of about time, working with a big director and big actors and on a big budget film, you need to make sure you've got a quick replacement. So that was the time when I bought my second recorder, identical to the first one, and my second radio mic receiver, identical to the first one. So that ends up being a bag kit, and my main rig is my main rig. But if anything goes wrong, I know that I can grab a kit.
You've worked on films involving large-scale musical performance, so things like Mamma Mia, Judy, and Jingle Jangle. How different is recording music on set compared to dialogue?
Recording music on set is very different to normal dialogue. There's a relationship with a music playback team. We're generally involved a lot earlier on the production. So for something like Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, there were rehearsal rooms set up at Shepperton. There were choreographers wanting music and voice of God mics to speak to the choreographers want to speak to the dancers. So various multiple smaller rooms and stages where we would be in prep for all that. We'd then be preparing our equipment. We were getting ready to move out to Croatia for 6 weeks. So again, we were making sure that
Wasn't it in Greece?
Nope.
Oh,
Greece was number one. It was made to look like Greece. So there is a lot of preamble, more preamble on a musical than on a purely dialogue show. And then of course, once you're into the actual filming, there's a relationship that we have with the music team, because they will have pre-records of all of the songs, most of the songs. We want them to make it look like, we all want them to make it look like it's being performed in one go and in one take, and the lip sync has to be immaculate, because we don't want it to feel like, oh, you've just pressed the button and the music comes on and everybody goes dancing. You want it. So for instance, at the beginning of Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, Amanda Seyfried is writing a postcard to her grandmother and singing live. Well, we recorded that live vocal. And I think the trick with musicals is that we try and get the vocals to mix with the pre-recorded track carefully and believably, so that you don't notice any jar between those parts that you record live on set or in a studio and the pre-recorded track.
How much do you get involved in the post?
I personally don't get involved in the post-production very much at all. There are sound mixers that do and enjoy that kind of work. I think that those people in post-production spend 8-10 hours a day working in that field and will become professionals in that area. And I'm very happy to leave it to them.
Is it over? Does the dialogue continue between you and the post mixer as well? Or
yeah, sometimes, yeah. Normally on a musical, they would be talking more with the music team and a dialogue sound editor. And so we'd be just checking if they're looking for a certain take, or if they're looking for a wild track, or everything obviously should be documented properly anyway, that is then in the post-production chain. But yes, I think the communication carries on right to the end.
And was Mamma Mia your first musical? Did Judy come first?
Can't remember.
So I think, and again, Judy, another big performance, iconic performer. What was it like working on that? And
Renee was amazing in Judy. She was so well rehearsed, worked so hard, and we all, obviously it was a period film, so we're all trying to make it feel and look and sound like it was in the 50s and 60s, to the point where the microphone that she had in shot was a hired microphone. I think we changed the capsule in the mic, but the main thing was she loved to have her cable as a prop. She loved to swing her mic cable around over her shoulder, and the one that came with the mic was about 3 foot long. So we replaced that with a 50-meter drum of black cable. And we tested the fact that you could swing it around, and she could actually use that as a prop on the stage when we did those numbers.
with every film that you do you think your skill set is changing every time with the technology and the approach, or is it a constant fallback onto skill set?
I think obviously the technology is changing all the time. I think with things getting smaller all the time as well, productions seem to have gone down the road of wanting more all the time. So the easier it is to carry 20 radio mics around with you and put them on people, then we'll do that. The sound equipment that we use is getting smaller, so you can carry more radio mic receivers. You can carry more batteries. You can carry on filming for longer. Your recorders can record for longer, so you can do multiple takes. You could film for an hour now, whereas when I started, we were using a 20-minute roll of 1/4-inch tape. So things do evolve, but then productions do then try and use that technology for their own benefit.
How much does location influence what you're able to capture on set?
The location. Well, the location is we'd always try and, I mean, on a recce for a particular production, we would always try and eke out whatever we can from a location, and I would go through a script and see if it was a period story, or if there are certain sounds or whatever that we can capture to help tell the story, and again help the performance, and let the viewer be taken away on a journey and be part of that. And part of that process and that work is gathering as much sound that is relevant to that particular time or that location.
And I think we've already talked about, does large scale outdoor environments like coastal locations, where we talked about the sea with About Time, present unique sound challenges? Is there any other kind of challenges? The regular thing, which for people who don't work in film, is aeroplanes. You have to stop and start.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you can think of that?
Well, there are. My sound challenges are when I'm on a location, it's always going to be aeroplanes. Now, sometimes you might stop for planes, sometimes you don't. If you're working 5 miles from Heathrow Airport, you haven't got time to stop for planes normally. You have to, they're every 45 seconds. You have to just soldier on through, as you're never going to get your day shot, and you're going to have to lean on ADR. I'm not proud about that. A director certainly isn't proud, and will quite often want to work through that. There are times when we don't have assistant directors to lock off a road, so we have traffic. So you have a level of traffic that is in the background. Some of that might be removable, some of it might not. Some of the post-production tools that are available now are incredible at removing background noise. Certainly background noise that's constant, like a seascape or wind in trees. Individual sounds like cars, dogs barking, sirens. You can be sure they'll start when you start filming.
Yeah, once you start turning. So this brings me to Lincolnshire.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this earlier, the sounds growing up in Lincolnshire that stay with you creatively, but sounds, the aeroplanes in Lincolnshire are very different to the aeroplanes near Heathrow. It's the military that you're hearing. I can growing up in Lincolnshire, I didn't hear a commercial plane until I didn't see a commercial plane in the sky until very much into my teens. What are the sounds of Lincolnshire that come to mind?
Well, I grew up working in Skegness. I grew up working for people in Skegness Pier, One of my first summer school jobs was sweeping up in Skegness Pier. I used to work for a guy who had a shop underneath the pier selling buckets and spades and deck chairs. I got paid in buckets and spades and model aeroplanes. I love the sound of the fair. One of my school friends owns and runs the fun fair on the seafront. My brother worked in an amusement arcade all his life since leaving school, so all the noises of a busy amusement arcade, the fun fair, amazing. You know, the carousel organ is just an incredible piece of work. And then all things like, I guess, moving inland, things like Lincoln Cathedral bells or farm noises, or they're very different to living and working in the south of England.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail there, like the sounds of the amusement arcades to sort of bring back that kind of homely childhood seaside resort Dubliness.
And not very far from here. I mean, we've got the nature reserve, so you have lots of birds and seascapes and
Gibraltar Point you're talking about.
Gibraltar Point, yeah. Beautiful nature reserve, very well kept, very well managed, and a real escape, and not very far from the chaos of what's happening in the town.
Yeah, we're going to go for a walk later, actually, and it's I think there's an element of British seaside that just makes you feel safe. You know, like the weekend visits or the holidays that you've had as a child, it's still that environment, and the sounds that come out of walking through Skegness is homely
and still British, and still, you know, for me, I was born in Lincoln, so I moved to Skegness when I was about 10 years old. So I've had the best of both worlds. I love Lincoln as a city. It's the most gorgeous city. There's not a lot around it. It's a lot of farmland. I always look for Lincolnshire on my Waitrose labels. Other supermarkets are available. But then coming to Skegness, obviously, as a young boy, the bright lights and all the noises of living by the seaside. I mean, what's not to like about it?
And starting out from Skegness, did a career in film feel accessible at the time?
No, I don't think it still does to this day either. I think I would never have dreamed of applying for a job in London in the film industry at the time. I think it's more accessible these days. I'd like to think that young people have got opportunities in the film industry, even though they don't grow up in the south of England. Lincoln University is an incredible place, and one of the most respected universities in the country for students ongoing to work in the industry. That, you know, the great facilities, great management, and it's in my hometown.
And how important is it for people in places like Lincolnshire to understand what roles exist behind the scenes like yours?
Well, I think if you watch films and TV, maybe it breaks the magic of that. Maybe you don't want to know what goes on behind camera. I think you'd obviously want to know what goes on behind camera if you want to work in it. I quite like watching films that take me away on a journey. I can distance myself from the technical issues of what may or may not happen on set or in a studio or on location. I'd like to just be taken away, and that's got to be the priority. That's got to be why we make these shows.
And do you feel a sense of pride bringing a perspective for people in Lincolnshire to think about film as an option? Because this is something that I'm aware of there is opportunity now, I do think, regionally, and I think there wasn't, certainly when I was growing up, the opportunities that there are.
Yeah.
Does it bring a sense of pride knowing that people from Skegness or from Grimsby or from wherever can find their route into the industry now?
I would like to think that people growing up in Lincolnshire can end up working in. I'd like to think that people growing up and working and living in Lincolnshire have got just as much opportunity as anyone in the country. I I think Lincolnshire is such a huge county. It's got so many opportunities for people, and I'd love to think that more film and TV students can follow and work in the industry, and I don't see any reason why not.
What makes a great on-set sound recordist beyond the technical side?
I think, well, the skills other than the technical ones for working in a sound department certainly are collaboration. Really is the main one. You're working with lighting gaffers, grips, obviously directors and producers, and you have to have you kind of have to be the no problem department in many ways, but it's kind of working with those teams of people. For us also, more importantly, on a more intimate scale, is working with costume and hair and makeup, because we're putting mics on and off people all the time. Sometimes they're having to sew patches into costumes, and this could be weeks or months before we ever start filming. We have try and build up a relationship with them to gain their trust. You know, we can't just go and put a mic on where we want to in the most ideal place. It has to be negotiated with people, and these are people that we are going to spend all day with on set. So it needs to be a nice relationship. As much as, you know, there are obviously some arguments and some disagreements, but you have to work through them, and that's part of the fun, and that's part of the game, and that is part of the job.
What's the biggest misconception about your role?
I think the biggest misconception about working in a sound department is that there's not a lot going on. It's generally seen that it's just a boom operator and maybe the odd radio mic, and then the sound person is not doing very much at a mixing desk, when actually they're probably concentrating quite hard. We have to negotiate and plan radio mic frequencies now, which is a big part of the sound department. So I think the biggest problem with the sound department is it only really gets noticed when something goes wrong. If the sound's good and it's all going fine, nobody really cares. I mean, they do care because they're enjoying whatever you've produced for them. They're enjoying the production and the hopefully the clarity of the dialogue, the power of the sound effects, and the gorgeousness of the score that's been recorded and mixed together beautifully. But when it goes wrong is when people notice.
If someone is following your path, what would you what advice would you give them, and where should they start?
There are some great training grounds now for people wanting to get certainly into sound. Lots of universities around the UK. We mentioned Lincoln University, which I think is an incredible resource for this county, and there are film schools, but film schools cost money, so it's very different. People get into the film and TV industry now in very different ways. It's a very mixed bag. Some people they'll just be emailing their CVs and they'll be trying to get their first job, which is hard when you haven't had a first job. But we're very sympathetic as sound people. We like new blood and we like new energy, and we want to train people, and we want to get them to do it in the best that they can. And there are now lots of avenues for people to be able to do that.
I think there's also Screen Skills, which gives access to training for young people, or not just young people, anybody wanting to transfer skills over as well. What still excites you about working in sound?
I still love my job. I still love going into work. The most important thing for me now is I've been very lucky at working with teams of people that I get on with. I don't like getting shouted and sworn at. It does happen on some films. I try to avoid them at all costs. But I do enjoy working on projects that I've got decent, nice people and great fun to work with, but are still great at their jobs, and they work in a very collaborative way, and that excites me.
Are there projects or challenges that you'd love to take on?
Bond.
Now's the time to say it.
Yeah. There are. I mean, you know, things like. I mean, I love doing action films. I just worked with James Hawes, who directed the first season of Merlin, which I worked on 15 years ago, and we just did The Amateur together. And that was incredible. It was just such a lovely collaboration, but it was an action adventure film, and we were on the go the whole time. And that's the buzz for me, is knowing that you've got a great script. You've been through the script so many times, because when I join a project, I will go through it, and I obviously want to read the story, but I also break a script down into the locations. I'll break a script down into, if there's any, say, difficult actors, like child actors, or difficult people that I might have problems with recording. I then break it down into the locations and what issues we might have with that, with background noise or with music backgrounds, or so I'll go through that. I'll know the story very well, and so I do get a buzz from when you finally start filming it. Is a real buzz.
Why do you think things like location links are important, and the networking within the region?
I think location links is a fantastic innovation, and it's great to see something like this for the area. Lincolnshire's got so much to offer in terms of locations, in terms of potential talent and crew that already live here and work here sometimes. Obviously, we want to maximise that. And give opportunities to those people, and also, give opportunities to people from different parts of the country that don't know this area. It is an incredible opportunity for people. It's so diverse, and I can only hope that that location links will help its cause.
So, if you thinking about the county, is there anywhere that hasn't been seen on screen that you can think of that would be a brilliant location?
The Wolds.
The Wolds.
Maybe.
It keeps coming up with everyone. The Wolds. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's beautiful. Gibraltar Point.
Yeah.
I don't know the stories that you would create. That's not my job.
No.
But
More in Skegness, obviously. But yeah, the Wolds keeps coming up. So if for anyone not knowing the Wolds, how would you describe the Wolds?
They're kind of undulating, I guess, some National Trust. Is it National Trust? Not quite. Protected
area, should we say?
Protected area of natural beauty. And obviously you don't want film crews going in there turfing it up. You've got beautiful villages with period buildings and churches and houses and thatch buildings. It's so diverse and so beautiful, and so untouched and so unspoiled, and the people that live here are so friendly, and it does feel like an amazing community to be part of.
I do think this is the thing, is like everywhere I'm going when I'm discussing inquiries that of people wanting to film in the county, everyone's so up for it, because it hasn't happened here. Everyone's super, to the point of super excitement that it's actually let's hopefully get this in.
Yeah.
And I think the Wolds, if you think about the Cotswolds, everyone automatically thinks of quintessential English village. Well, thinking about Louth and Alford and Horncastle and all these different places on the edge of the Wolds, and then the smaller 15th century villages, they're just beautiful. And if you're going to do a period British drama, they've not been seen.
No.
So
there's space to park. It's easy to commute and travel. There are hotels here. There are things and places for people to do. I think it's such an easy access location for film productions, and an undiscovered place.
I love it. How would you like people to feel after hearing your story?
I'd like people to feel inspired. I'd like people to feel inspired that they can work in a film and television sound industry, regardless of where you grew up or wherever you lived. I'd like them to be inspired and use my story as a beginning for theirs.
And if a production was considering filming in Lincolnshire, what would you say to them and try and convince them to come?
Please, can I come and work on your production in Lincolnshire?
Yes, me too. Yeah, no, I think it's a really a great time for production in Lincolnshire, and I think the more of the Hollywood films that have a little look and explore slightly to the right of the country rather than slightly to the left of the country.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it's a good time for all of the departments and companies and individuals like yourself. Bringing this together slowly is fantastic, and it is a great opportunity for this county.
Thank you, Adrian Bell, for joining us.
Pleasure.
This podcast was created by Keel Productions in partnership with the School of Creative Arts at the University of Lincoln and brought to you by our headline sponsor, Associated British Ports. Join us next time for our final episode of this series, where we'll meet with acclaimed actor Kevin Doyle, known for Downton Abbey, Happy Valley and Sherwood.